What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to a live episode of the Acre Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm ready for training camp. Starts on Tuesday. It's going to be interesting to see all the storylines play out. So I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's right. Guys, we'll be joined by a special guest shortly, so stay tuned for that. While you're here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe as well to our YouTube channel. Trying to get to 2,000 subscribers, super close. We're going to give away a 49ers jersey. And if you're watching this on Twitter, hit that follow button on Twitter. We're trying to get to 10,000 on Twitter, where we will also be giving away a 49ers jersey. Matt, let's get right into it. We got a cool show planned for you guys tonight. The biggest news, obviously, was Fred Warner's contract.
Yeah.
Fred Warner had some very, very kind words to say about the 49ers. He said, that there was some pressure to get the contract extension done prior to the start of training camp. And he said that everybody handled the situation flawlessly. This is a quote. It was a great experience, something I was hoping to get done before training camp so I could focus on the season and just being my best self, not having to worry all about that stuff. I trusted in my agent and everyone who was involved in the deal. I'm just happy it's over. So are you, obviously you're relieved, but how happy are you that this deal is done?
Well, it's awesome. We had the live show talking about the news, and then, we're going to come back and talk about it again today. But what we didn't know at the time was the structure of this deal. And really, hats off to Parag, man. Like every time, this deal is voidable by the team after 3 years. So they can choose to pick up the extra years, or they can void it. So this is another team-friendly deal. Fred Warner is a class act. He's the leader of the defense. He gets to stay with the 49ers. And all around, I think, for us fans, it's a big win. Definitely.
It is. Yeah, it definitely is. Guys, our guest is here, so we're going to go ahead and bring her in. Welcome, Melissa. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining, I should say.
How are you guys?
Great.
Good.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Thanks for having us. Melissa, what were your thoughts on Fred Warner's extension?
I was absolutely thrilled. It was finally about time that they got it done. I actually was more nervous about this one than I was about Kittle's, and I'm a huge Kittle fan, so.
Yeah, definitely. I could totally get that. He seems to be ecstatic to continue his career with the 49ers. Basically said that he didn't really even consider, testing for agency, playing out his final year. So that's great. Everybody's thrilled to see you on the show, Melissa. Long time coming. Glad to have you on.
Yeah.
Matt, also in this Fred Warner announcement, he basically said on, I believe, KBR that D Ford looks like he's all but going to return this year. What do you make of that?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens when they start getting physical. It's one thing to be in the gym working out and, looking really good. But are they show muscles or are they go muscles? And that's really what we want to see, if that back injury has kind of healed itself. If they can get even just situational pass rushing out of D Ford this season, that would be a big boon. And that's one of the things that we're going to see early on in training camp with D Ford, with Nick Bosa, with players of that ilk. Do they immediately participate in some level in training camp, or are they going to be placed on the inactive list, the PUP list? And that's really going to be a telltale sign of where the team's at going forward. But yeah, if Fred Warner's not the type of guy to just throw things out into the ether for no reason. So if he says he's ready to go, it gets me a little more excited and hopeful that he may actually be ready to go.
Yeah, definitely. Melissa, I'll read to you some of the quotes here from Fred Warner. He said, he's great. He looks great. He's back. I've seen him plenty, and he's working his tail off. I know he's the type of player. I know the type of player that he is, and the fact that he's back healthy is going to give us a huge advantage. Are you staying caution? Like, are you proceeding this with some caution? You don't want to be too optimistic.
I'm not believing it until I see it. I can't. It's been too many years where we gotten our hopes up. They said the same things about Trent Taylor when he came off his injuries. They said the same things about Jerick McKinnon for how many years before that happened. I can't. I would love to, but I just can't anymore. It's just, you get your hopes up like week 3 when you find out that these guys are done for the year. So this like herd and everything else. It's a lovely story. It'd be awesome if it happens, but I can't do it again.
I'm with you. I was one who was just all over cargo plane. I mean, yeah, just it's that spin doctoring that you see. It's smoke screen season or whatever before training camp. It's like before the first game, right? We had the best training camp of our lives, blah blah blah. And this is across sports. Fighters say this, baseball teams say this in spring training, football teams say it. Just across sports going into the season, everybody's like, we're coming into with the best shape of our lives, and it's all BS. So until they get out there and actually do something.
Believe that last year, and then the high ankle sprains happened, and then the calf strains happened, and then the thigh injuries, and then the groin pulls and everything else. And it's just, I love my team. I will die with the red and gold, but I cannot go into another season and just hope on hope again. Yeah,
I think at this point, seeing's believing for sure.
She said Trent Taylor, and that really just made my
but it's my true. They all said it.
That was like kind of a little dagger right to the chest, right? Trent Taylor. It was
Garoppolo. Everybody said he was like in the best shape in the world. They corrected everything after all his surgeries, and it's just.
It's true.
I can't. We got more out of Pettis than we got out of Trent Taylor. So.
Ooh. That's rough because we got almost nothing out of Pettis. We got some good memes out of Pettis.
Think about it. You got the Thriller dance on what was it, week 8 Halloween 2019, where he got that big touchdown.
Yep.
Pettis saved everybody week 3 of the same year, where he went back for Jimmy's catch at the end of the Pittsburgh game to win that one.
Yeah.
So
you know what though? To be fair, there is a different standard set for a 6th round pick versus like a 5th round guy, or 6th round guy, whatever Taylor was. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It was like all throughout training camps.
I wish I could be like that, but I can't judge a guy by his round. I mean, technically, Tom Brady is round 6, and he has how many rings? And then Russell Wilson was picked in the 3rd round, and he has barely 1 ring.
True. The cream will always rise to the top, for sure. Yeah, I mean, cream will rise to the top. If you're talented, you're going to get your shine and whatever. You just there's always that expectation that goes with the higher rounds, though. And I think because if you're investing that much capital into them, you expect to get a good return. So
as long as they're not Saquon Barkley, I'm happy, because that's just a bust.
Ooh.
All right.
Dang. All right. Well, I know who not to draft in fantasy this year.
I live in Jersey, so everybody and their mother wants to talk about how Saquon's going to be better than Zeke this year. And I live with the most obnoxious giant father in the world. I cannot stress how much that Gallman changed everything for them last year, and how him and Alfred Morris, who's like almost 40, did more than Saquon did in the last 2 years.
Yeah,
and it's the same exact line. And that Daniel Jones was running harder and faster and doing more yards than Saquon before his injury, even with tripping him on himself. Nope. Can't do it.
Well, all right. Well, we're going to get back to the 49ers football. Yes. Trey Lance obviously has been the talk of the town since April. There's been some talk online about getting him in, pretty much basically week 1 or not. Matt and I, we've talked about this. Melissa, when do you think we see Trey Lance in, as a starter, basically, not just in, situational packages? When do you think we see him permanently?
I would love for him to start week 1. I know that would upset a lot of people. I'm sorry. There's East Bay Chris on the screen right now. I can't keep the giggles. But I think the bye week probably. I mean, it's the early one, so it'd still be at the beginning of the season. You have 4 weeks and then the bye, I think, this year. So
it's a rough one. It's a bad one.
And I think they want to have him get most of the year, if not, because we already know what Jimmy is. He's going to either be traded or cut or whatever, and it's goodbye. And I personally would love to see national tight end stay with Trey Lance. I would love to see Trey Lance versus Justin Fields on Halloween. So that, for me, that's what I would love to see. But I can wait until like week 14 if that's what had to be, but I just don't want to ever have to see the Tua Fitzpatrick thing where it's 1 week in, 1 week out, 1 inning in, 1 inning out.
Yeah.
I think that just doesn't help anybody doing that.
Yep.
That was really strange, the whole Tua Fitzpatrick thing.
Yeah.
Matt, we've talked about this. Has your opinion changed at all? Do you think
a little bit? So the more I read the tea leaves, the more I see interviews with players and stuff like that, the more I think that we're going to see Trey Lance sooner rather than later. The latest in this is George Kittle came out the other day and said, I hope Trey Lance comes for Jimmy's job because we all need competition. We all should thrive on competition. And I just don't think that you put that out there without having some inkling of what Trey Lance is going to be. The players already know if he's, going to be capable of playing or not. And now they just need training camp to kind of confirm that. And so once we see Trey Lance in preseason and the clamoring starts to grow for Trey Lance, unless he lays an absolute egg, I feel like we're going to see him sooner rather than later. I think Jimmy's dates are pretty numbered.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this, and my opinion was always Jimmy's likely going to start the season, and barring some injury, he's going to play the majority of it. I don't know, man. Hearing these reports, like you said, Matt, these players know, coaches know. I wouldn't be surprised to see Trey just beat out Jimmy outright in pure competition before the season starts. He's clearly the more physically gifted football player.
Right.
That translates on the field. And when I forget who was talking about this the other day, the quarterbacks that start early on and do well are the more physically gifted ones. And that's exactly what Trey Lance is. Well,
and here's the thing. If he's everything that they thought he was in terms of mental processing and picking things up and doing all this stuff, then he's going to be able to, get out there, throw passes, do everything at a higher level than what you would expect out of a rookie. And you add in the physical gifts and it's like, well, why wait? At that point, why wait?
Yep.
So.
Yep, exactly. Why wait? All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break because we have some new merch for you guys. This is actually the first time I am unveiling it. Let me pull up on the screen.
I don't even know what it is, guys.
I literally just did it right before we went on. So let me pull it up. Let's see. We got some Warner Bread merch.
That is
check it out in celebration of Fred Warner's contract extension. As of right now, it is only available just in men's, women's tees and hoodies, just because I didn't have the time to put it into all the other little things Teespring offers. Yeah. But we will have it up shortly. I think the link to our Teespring's in the bio. If not, it's shop49ershive.com, and you could use code RGS15 for 15% off your purchase. I just ordered mine. Go and check them out. Design just came out today, so you guys are seeing them for the first time. I hope everybody likes them. And
who makes these designs? Do you make these designs?
I wish I did. I do not. Basically, I go on Fiverr, find a designer that I like. I have one that I've worked with for pretty much all the designs we've made, and he's pretty good.
Okay, you guys would hate a T-shirt I designed. It would be awful.
Yeah. So go and check them out. Shop49ershive.com.
Hey, can you click on the black? Click on the black.
Yeah.
So people want to see it. Hey,
it's also in like a sport gray.
Nice. Very nice.
And available small through 5X. So plenty of sizes there. Go and check it out. Shop49ershive.com. Like I said, code RGS15. Very mad I didn't think of it first. Yeah. Shout out to Steve. Actually, Steve had this idea. I had told him we needed to make some. It was Trent Taylor who had the Warner Bread tweet. He's like, somebody needs to make merch about this. And I sent it to Steve. I'm like, I got something coming up. And he's like, just do the Wonder Bread design. I'm like, duh, perfect. Yeah. All right. Something that's non-49ers related that I feel like we should talk about because it was 49ers related at some point this offseason. There was a PFT, Pro Football Talk article about how sportbooks are believing that Aaron Rodgers will retire within the next week. Mm-hmm. Melissa, what do you make of this? Do you buy it at all?
Nope.
Leverage move, or what do you think? What do you think getting this news out there is?
My brother is a diehard Packer fan. He is the most obnoxious person you will ever meet. I think he wants to draw out their pain, so I don't buy it one iota at all.
Okay.
And I
All
think
right.
it's very interesting timing that now he's going to retire after the Davante Adams contract has kind of ended. So call me skeptical, but I don't buy it.
All right, Matt, what about you?
I'm of two minds. With as much as he was doing this offseason, he's got his new shiny Hollywood girlfriend and he's angling for the Jeopardy job still. And, you know, he went on vacations and things like that. He's doing things that you don't typically expect an athlete who's super locked in to do. And he's doing it in a very public way. I do think that this is a leverage play, but I think that, you know, he's old enough and he's earned enough that if he decided to walk away, I think with all the outside stuff going on, that maybe his passion for dealing with the Packers and not his passion for football, but the politics of football might drive him away at least for a year. So I'm torn. I think this has gotten real out of hand. I think that Mark Murphy, the president of the Packers, really needs to do some soul searching and figure it out. Because if they don't get Aaron Rodgers in there, I think we all know that, you know, Jordan Love is going to be a disaster. So if they don't get him in there, I mean, and it says something that Davante Adams is like, no, there's no contract talks here with me either. So there's something brewing there.
That's
and it
because
could be
he wants more than DeAndre Hopkins, and he hasn't really earned DeAndre Hopkins money.
I would disagree. I think that the next guy getting paid is going to be the next highest paid. Talent is talent. That's fine. But, you know, contracts always move. So I don't know. I think that Davante Adams could very well be the highest paid player at his position if he wants it.
I just don't see it that way. I don't think that Dak Prescott should have been making near Patrick Mahomes money. I don't think that Austin Hooper should be making near Kelsey and Kittle money. I'd rather play the person than the position.
That, I mean, you know, that's fine. And we all agree that the talent isn't, you know, the same. Austin Hooper is not on the same level as Kittle or Kelsey. I guess it's Kels based on what he says. But the fact of the matter is it's a business and everybody moves it forward. And as much as you don't want to see them make a DeAndre Hopkins type contract, what that does is the next time DeAndre Hopkins is up, that's more money for DeAndre Hopkins. And so you're kind of just pulling the whole position forward, and it's the business of it. Talent doesn't always match the money, so
it's true. I mean, look at Jimmy. Jimmy got that giant contract because that's where the contracts were going. Yep. Just a quick correction. This actually, the original report was per SI actually. So this was just a PFT article that I saw covering it. But it was per Bill Huber, I believe, of SI. And they have all of these sporting books that paused the entire books for NFC North markets, including projected wins, playoff odds, divisional odds, and weekly lines, just because there's so much talk that they believe Aaron Rodgers is going to retire. So it's something worth noting.
Yeah, nice to see that SI still has some journalists working for him.
Yeah. Also, along the same lines, you mentioned Davante Adams. He was getting he posted an article, or excuse me, a picture, kind of because he's not happy, like Melissa said, and I think Matt, you talked about it as well. And George Kittle was kind of poking some fun at him after he posted the picture, and I'll share my screen so you guys can see the post. Let's see. See here. These damn ads. So George Kittle is poking some fun. So I just thought it was funny, something funny to talk about.
You know, again, it's the next man up thing. The next guy's going to get paid. And I mean, he had a crazy season last season. So he had like 115 catches, 1,400 yards, and 18 touchdowns. I mean, that's
Tunyon actually had the better year last year out of the two of them.
Who?
Robert Tunyon.
Oh.
Which I still do not understand how Robert Tunyon got passed up for the Pro Bowl over Ingram. That's Ingram being a first rounder.
It's all the fans. It's all popularity.
Yeah.
Tanyon's not flashy at all.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on back to 49ers. They signed.
Quit taking us off track, Zach.
I know. They signed Ambry Thomas and Trey Sermon this week. The only remaining draft pick is Trey Lance. Matt, is there any reason for concern that they haven't signed him yet?
No, but I knew that report. We talked about that report going out around the other day, where I was just like, grain of salt. As I look into it, it turns out to be whoever threw that up was just kind of throwing things at the wall. But I expect it to get done. I mean, there's only so many ways you can go. You're talking about, when is your bonus getting delivered to you? Is there any offset language? And that's essentially it. These deals are pretty fairly, they're tightly slotted in terms of like what the overall money is going to be. So Zach Wilson still needs to sign. And I think that's the domino that's going to lead to Trey Lance signing. They want to see what Zach Wilson's going to get and what kind of language he's going to get. Trevor Lawrence has signed already. So that kind of set the bar for where everything's going to be for this draft class. And I think it'll fall into place fairly early on in the training camp.
All right. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Rashawn Slater. Those are the only three rookies that haven't signed their contracts yet. I mean, it's worth noting, but I've seen a lot of people on Twitter specifically just getting worked up and anxious about it. I don't really think there's anything to be anxious about. When's the last time the number 3 overall pick held out or anything like that? Melissa, do you think this will be announced soon?
I hope so. I mean, I wanted to believe it when it first came out. But I don't see this being like Baker Mayfield, where you saw him on Hard Knocks, where they were telling him the can-dos, the can't-dos before they ever signed him. So I just think it's a matter of time. It just sucks to wait.
It does, and the thing is, like, he's the biggest pick. That's what I think fans are so, that extra umph is that it's Trey Lance, the future quarterback, the flashy pick, and that's the last one, unfortunately.
He was certainly the most expensive pick. Rashawn Slater is the one that I'm not surprised about. Going back to Joey Bosa with the Chargers are always trying to throw offset language at their first round picks. So they've had a history of their guys being pretty late. And when we talk about number 3 overall picks holding out, I believe Bosa was the number 3 overall pick for the Chargers, and he held out well into training camp. But that's been a Chargers thing. They're just really like frugal in that way. I think Parag is just trying to, again, work his Parag magic and kind of, see what he can get out of this deal in terms of what they can do in terms of spreading a bonus out or something like that. But it's hard because, again, these contracts are slotted. I think once they get Trey Lance into the building for training camp within day 1, day 2, day 3, they're going to get him signed and everything's going to be just fine. Yeah,
I totally agree. Comment here from East Bay Chris. Trey Sermon's tape looks absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to see this guy play. He's going to be a huge part of the 49ers. I think we all agree with that. Yeah.
I agree. I actually think that he's somebody that I may take a late round flyer on in fantasy just because I think that he's going to get a lot of run.
I'm so glad you told me because we're in the same league, so I can just poach him a little early.
I'm in a paid league too with my brother-in-law, some of his friends. So like we each drop like $100 or $200 at the beginning of the season, and winner takes the pot.
That's the way to do it.
Championship belt, like it's like that show, The League.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the guy that lost last year is threatening. The loser has to bring like supply the food for the next draft, and he's threatening to bring Taco Bell because he's a cheapskate.
That's horrible. Matt, you might know this usually, do you know when the deadline to cut Jimmy is to save the money, to save all that money?
No, they can cut him whenever. It's just going to be he's going to get a weekly pay, like a per game. He's going to get a game check every week. So he doesn't have the guaranteed money. It's just going to be a prorated version of that $27.5 million or whatever. As they go further into the season, that's going to save less and less because he's going to have been paid for what he was doing. But the actual money on the deal, I believe it's 2.5 is the guaranteed or the dead money on the deal. So anything beyond that, they can move on. So if Trey Lance balls out in preseason, they decide to go with Trey Lance, they can move off of Jimmy right away and recoup that entire amount. If it takes them half the season, then it's half the season. But if it bleeds into the season, I do think that they keep him until the end because, York has come out and said he's comfortable carrying that cap number for the season. And really, we just need it for extensions next season. So I'm not too worried about the money on Jimmy's deal.
Yeah. Melissa, do you think they end up cutting him at some point, or do you think they roll with him all year? Roll with him on the roster, I should say, not a starter.
The only thing that we all can hope for is that injuries don't force us to make a rash move.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just to Jimmy, but to the rest of the team, because we were all kind of scrambling for players last year.
That we were. Yeah. It was ugly.
Yeah, I think the injury thing will kind of come back to baseline. We had a really bad luck year last year, and I think that these things kind of tend to even out over time. So hopefully we'll have a pretty healthy season. Or if there are injuries, there'll be like minor things that players can play through. Like in 2019, players had these little nagging things that they were able to play through, and we were able to get to a Super Bowl with it. So as long as we don't lose any major players to season-ending injuries, which are always the ones that like you worry about, no team goes into the playoffs completely healthy. That's just the nature of a contact sport like football. If we can minimize the major injuries, then I think the 49ers will do just fine.
You know, it's funny you say that. It's not funny. Don't get me wrong. But the season-ending injuries. I was watching. I have YouTube TV, and I went on my DVR, and I'm like, I want to watch some 49ers football, and I watched the only games for whatever reason. It doesn't even make sense going in the order of they happen chronologically. The only games that were saved were the Jets and the Giants, and I'm just like, oh my god. I'm like, okay, well, hey, the first like quarter of the Jets. The Jets game was fine, and I played it, and I ended up watching the whole thing, and I sat there like 3/4 of the way through, and I'm like, why do I do this to myself? I'm like basically sitting there in tears, like, why do I do this? Why do I know better? I know what happens.
Yeah,
it's tough.
But I can't watch week 4. I want to watch it just because it was Kittle's big game, and then I remember what happens at the end, and I'm like, I can't do it to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's just it's pretty bad.
they have the good condensed games on YouTube for anybody watching that wants some 49ers fans. You can watch the NFC Championship where Raheem Mostert ran all over the Packers. There's a bunch of good games on YouTube. The Saints game, but
they have the Seattle game.
Yep,
that's right. Yeah,
3 hours, I think it is.
They have the whole games. So
I went on YouTube and I went all the way to the end where Greenlaw made that tackle. That's all I needed to see.
Yeah, that little rush of dopamine real quick.
All I need to see. And I was like, okay, I feel good about this year.
Yeah. All right. Next topic, guys. USA Today's 2021 record predictions have the 49ers winning the NFC West with a record of 11-6. Melissa, what do you make of this?
I like to think that we can at least get 13 games wins this year. I mean, 11-6 is not bad. But like I said, after last year, I had a really high number. I'm not making any high bets or anything. But as far as schedule things go, I think it could be in the high number.
Matt, what do you think?
I think it's pretty close. Just because the NFC West is like the best division in football. So these teams are going to like self-kill each other. What I got a problem with is the Browns at 13-4. That's a little crazy. And they must assume that it is. It really? It is. It is. I think they're hyping them up a little bit too much. Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what Burrow's gonna be like. Big Ben wasn't that great at the end of last year, and the Ravens
but the Ravens are always there. The Ravens are always there. I don't. It's Cleveland Browns. I just don't trust them to win 13 games. And then they must assume that Deshaun Watson's not going to play at all because they have the Texans having the worst record in the league. So 1-16 is pretty terrible. So they must assume like he's not going to play at all. Everything else, I don't see anything super egregious. The Packers record could change if Aaron Rodgers does actually sit out the season. Yeah, I don't know. I like the AFC East. I think that's about right. NFC East is about right, where it's like 3 teams right there and then a garbage team like Philly. NFC South is about right. Yeah, everything looks pretty good. The Browns at 13 wins. They have a stacked roster, but I just, it's still the Browns. I'm just conditioned for the Browns to, not do as well as they should.
My I guess, issue is, does 11-6 win the NFC West?
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be team kill the whole time in the NFC West.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's the toughest division in football. So it's kind of like baseball. If you look at the NL West right now, like all those teams are really good, but they have losses on their record because they start beating each other, you know? So I fully believe that 3 teams from the NFC West could make the playoffs. And if that's the case, then obviously they're not going to have the best record in the NFL. I don't think any of the 3 will be the 1 seed. But if you have like the 3 seed and then you have 2 wild cards, I mean, that your division's the best. So I just think that in terms of who they have to play in their division, I think that's a little bit more rough. I mean, let's say Aaron Rodgers comes back, right? The Vikings are starting to fall off and slip. They're losing some talent. The Bears, they're going to start Justin Fields and they're going to be good, but how good, you know? And then the Lions are just always a dumpster fire. So, you know, you look at some of these divisions and some teams have a clearer path to a division title than others. And I just think the NFC West is just stacked. So,
okay. I like it. Yeah, I'm excited to see how it plays out, man. I still don't like the 17 number. I don't know. I'm just weird with that.
Yeah, I don't like it either. It's an unbalanced schedule too. Like I just don't. Yeah, I don't like odd numbered schedules.
Yeah. Guys, for you guys sending in your comments in the chat, we'll get to them. We'll stay on outline and then we'll go back to get these questions.
I actually like the 17 because never I have to hear the words 8 and 8 ever again. I
like the perfect balance. Everything is
unless
balanced.
There's a tie and you're 8, 8-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it won't be 8 and 8 anymore. It won't not just be an even win-loss thing again.
I'll just send off a sad salute to that Jeff Fisher 7-9 bullshit. See you later.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Some of the bigger news, I guess, in the NFL world was the new COVID rules. And I'm going to pull up the rules for Tom Pelissero of NFL Network here. And I thought, at least to me, the biggest rule change is that no games will be postponed this season. And the team that has the COVID outbreak will have to forfeit and will be credited with a loss for playoff seeding. Massive implications as the tweet reads.
But what do they count? See, and here's the thing: like, what do you count as an outbreak? Is it 1 player? Is it 2? Is it 3? There's some nebulous things going on, and I don't think that, like, you know, the worst team that we had last year was the Broncos when they had to sign that dude off of the street essentially to play quarterback.
Ravens got Kevin pushed back last year.
Yeah, they pushed him back, but you know, and that was the thing too. They pushed back the Ravens, but they wouldn't push back the Broncos. I don't know. They wouldn't suspend our game, and we had the Packer player, the linebacker who had COVID, and yet we got lost players because of a false negative, and the Titans didn't get punished. The Ravens didn't get punished, but they had the big outbreaks. But Pittsburgh got screwed, having to play in every 3 days. What was it for, like 2 weeks or something like that? It was way too crazy. I don't know these rules. I don't know.
So here are some of the rules here. Let's see. In light of substantial roster flexibility in place for the 2021 season, absent medical considerations, government directives, games will not be postponed or rescheduled simply to avoid roster issues caused by injury or illness affecting multiple players, even within a position group. If a game is canceled, postponed, a club cannot play due to COVID spike among or resulting from its non-vaccinated players or staff, then the burden of the cancellation or the delay will fall on the club experiencing the COVID infection. We will seek to minimize the burden on opposing club or clubs. If a club cannot play due to a COVID spike in vaccinated individuals, we will attempt to minimize the competitive and economic burden on both participating teams. So that's what kind of makes me scratch my head.
That thing right there is a little, I don't know. We can talk about the strong arm nature of that kind of statement, but
I think that's more for like teams like the Broncos who try to invalidate their experience because they had no quarterback, and I think it's loophole-y enough for someone like Kansas City if they had an outbreak to maybe get a loophole out of forfeiting a game.
I just think that the way they're wording this is they're kind of like wink, wink, like, who cares about your feelings on a vaccination? You better get it. Wink, wink. Otherwise, you're going to cost your team games. Wink, wink.
I agree. And we saw some notable players, DeAndre Hopkins included, basically came out and say they don't like having to be forced to make a decision or else hurt their teammates. Some of these tweets here from Tom Pelissero are interesting. Vaccinated individuals who test positive and are asymptomatic can return to duty after 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. Unvaccinated individuals are still mandatory to a 10-day isolation period. Obviously, huge competitive differences there between vaccinated and unvaccinated players if you test positive. So it's going to be
and that's the way that it should be too. I mean, as someone who, works in a hospital, I mean, if you did get vaccinated, the CDC guidelines are pretty clear on what, you should be able to do. My issue is that, like DeAndre Hopkins expanded upon his lack of desire to get the vaccine because his girlfriend's brother developed myocarditis like right away or whatever. We don't know if some of these players, famously Ryan Clark couldn't play in Denver because he has sickle cell trait. There could be things that these players have where they're either unable to get vaccinated or they're being advised not to get the vaccine. And I feel like that gets lost in the ether. It's become such a political thing, which is unfortunate because this is like a real world situation where people's health are at stake. I don't know. But at the same time, the NFL is a private business too. So I see both sides of it. I just think that's going to get pretty ugly, like the rest of this stuff. And
without a doubt.
Hopefully no outbreaks, so we don't even have to deal with it.
Hopefully, yeah. We'll leave it at that. All we'll say is talk to your doctor, get vaccinated if your doctor recommends. Moving on, we're going to take a quick break to welcome the newest member of 49ers Hive, which is Joey Arredondo. Joey, I don't think you're watching this, but everybody, his handle is Niners Analyst. Go and follow him on Twitter. He's going to be joining us as a content creator, writing articles, and he expanded us into the world of TikTok, which is something we had completely not even acknowledged. So we will now be on TikTok. Go and follow us at 49ers Hive on TikTok. I think you follow him on TikTok. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, thank you and welcome, Joey. We're thrilled to have you on the team.
Yeah.
So while we're here, we should go ahead and do our ad read. Thank you to the sponsors. And I've said time and time again, I will bring the gold bar.
He's got the gold bar.
I have the gold bar here, folks, from Acre Gold. Click the link in the bio or link in the description. Get your Acre Gold subscription for as little as $50 a month. You too could be the owner of a 2.5 gram gold bar. And it is a little misleading. I'm gonna tell you straight up because they give you this box and they give you this little outline. However, the piece of gold's just a tad bit smaller than the outline on the box, but it is 2.5 grams. As you can see, the light's not really on it. It's 2.5 grams. You can look up. So the way it works is instead of dropping whatever the market price is on 2.5 grams of gold, you can pay X amount of dollars, as little as $50 per month. And once your subscription, once you've sent in enough, reaches the market price, they will send you a 2.5 gram gold bar. So it's really cool, and you're helping out our channel. So click the link in the bio in the description and get your subscription started. And also, we would like to thank 81 by Terrell Owens. You can go to 81vino.com, type in code RGS, and get 10% off your purchase of 81 by Terrell Owens. Tio is now in the wine business, so shout out to him. And lastly, guys, we showed you our new Warner Bread merch. Click the link in the description or go to shop49ershive.com and get your new Warner Bread merch, code RGS15. That will save you 15% off your whole purchase. Go and check that out. That merch just came out right now, so go and grab it. Thank you to our sponsors.
Help us sell out, everybody. Help us sell out.
Help us sell out. That is correct. Fernando Oriana says the NFL is to fine unvaccinated players $14,650 for any violation of COVID-19 protocol. I assume this would include the whole strip club debacle that happened. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was the NBA, right? Last season. Yeah. I got my sports mixed up.
No, there was a strip club with Haskins.
Yeah, but then he got cut. Yeah, he got cut, though. He got cut.
Well, he had to get cut. I mean, what he did to Ron Rivera and that team was disgusting.
Yeah, that doesn't count though. The guy that I'm talking about, is NBA player, I can't remember his name. He said he went to the strip club to get chicken wings.
That's right.
And got COVID. and couldn't play.
That was during the bubble too, wasn't it?
That was during the bubble. It was in the bubble. He was like, man, I just love
Lou Williams. It was Lou Williams.
Lou Williams. There you go.
Yeah.
Dirty Lou Williams.
You gotta love that.
He said, I went to the strip club for
the
the chicken wings.
Yeah.
No,
right.
dude.
Next topic on tonight's show.
Oh, God.
All right. I saw this from everybody's favorite 49ers reporter, Grant Cohn. His tweet basically read something along the lines of, Brandon Iuke could be the greatest punt returner in NFL history, but we will never know because the 49ers do not allow him to return punts. Matt, should the 49ers allow Brandon Iuke to return punts?
No. Why? What's the purpose? Grant
I guess
Cohn wants
to get
like,
some production.
cut his nose off to spite his face. Like, why would you sacrifice potentially on offense to shore up special teams? What? Okay, Grant. Whatever, man. Why don't you just find a return specialist? It works out well when you find a guy like Ted Ginn who could just return kicks. That's all you need.
Yep.
Could be the greatest.
Yeah, I don't know who I saw.
Like
Somebody
Dante Pettis was the greatest punt returner in NCAA history. How'd that turn out in the NFL?
They tried to get a specialist. Melissa, what about you? Do you want to see him?
No. It's not because I don't think Brandon could do it, because I'm not as big a fan of him as Mariah is, but I wouldn't risk our number one receiver. I mean, we've waited how many years for a number one receiver? I don't see why you should do that.
I agree.
Yeah. It's a missing part of the game for sure. You definitely want to find someone who can return kicks, who's not Richie James running into the first defender he sees. But at the same time, we talk all the time about this team has dealt with injury after injury after injury, and you want to potentially expose another player to injury. It's a weird take from Grant. It's not that he doesn't have plenty of weird takes, but this one especially, I'm like, it doesn't really make sense, man.
Yeah, I just don't think it's worth it.
Besides, we have how many running backs? Why not use just a running back for that? I just don't understand it.
Yeah, all the comments are like, injure him, like it's really not worth. Send Jimmy back there and make him earn his keep.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
He'll tear his right ACL.
Yeah.
Trying to juke back in.
Yeah, Sherfield is a return specialist.
I keep forgetting about some of these like later back end wide receivers that we signed.
It's tough to keep up. Okay. Steve Smith, Wes Welker, etc. Did it when the NFL wasn't so damn soft. This wouldn't even be a discussion, but I can also understand the other side because our team is always hurt. Yeah, but
Wes Welker doesn't even know his own name anymore. I mean, he is our wide receiver coach. It's just, I mean, it is like I'm being facetious, but he had a lot of concussions.
That's
Travis Benjamin had a lot of concussions. Like Jay Ellie said, Travis Benjamin. Steve Smith ended up later in his career with a lot of injuries. So
that's true. That is true.
You're putting a guy back there, right, with a punt where he has to look up in the sky, determine whether the guys are going to get to him before he can make a move. They're running at him full speed, and if he chooses wrong, he's going to get lit up. And just why would you put up your potential number one? Yeah, well, Steve Smith was a number one, but outside of that, who puts their number one back there? DeAndre Hopkins isn't returning kicks. Devontae Adams isn't returning kicks. Like
Tyreek Hill's not it.
Right. You just don't do that.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement here. Also, Debbie says that's mean to say about Jimmy. It's all jokes. It's all jokes, honestly.
Poor Jimmy.
Yeah. So the next question I wanted to ask you guys, which is something that I've seen also being talked about. Do the 49ers have one of the best rosters in the NFL?
Yes.
Yes, Matt?
Yeah. Top to bottom, I think it's one of the strongest rosters in the NFL. But again, it's contingent upon them staying healthy.
Exactly.
That's really what it's going to be. And you could say that about a lot of rosters. But when you look at some other teams' weaknesses, I think they're right up there with the Kansas City and the Cleveland Browns.
He said it. He said it.
As rosters that on paper are really good.
Yeah.
I just honestly, I was like an early adopter of Baker Mayfield, but I just don't know. We have to see how OBJ fits back into that structure. And if he goes back to being the Baker Mayfield that was struggling because he was trying to force feed the ball to OBJ or what, it's too hard to tell. But I just don't trust the Browns.
Melissa, you said yes as well.
I trust that it's going to be a good roster. I don't see many organizations that have a good offense and a good defense. And for the first time in a very long time, I'm actually really optimistic about our quarterback play. And I think for many years that was the discredit, no matter how good our defense was, it was just the quarterback. You had the Harbaugh years where you had a great defense, but the quarterback was a question. You had the 19 season where the defense was superb, but you had the questions of the quarterback. And I think that's finally going to even out right now because you finally have enough depth at running back and offensive line, and now there's quarterback hope. And I don't know if it's going to be top 3, but I could see it in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
I think both units are top 10 for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Both units.
And, it's like we've always said, like they've been winning kind of in spite of Jimmy holding them back more than he propelled them forward. And I agree with you, Melissa. I do think that there's a lot of excitement and optimism around the 49ers because of the quarterback position for the first time in a while. So hopefully that's not unfounded, and hopefully that does kind of play out. But Matt, just like you said, on paper, yes. Does that translate over come October, November, December? That remains to be seen. However, the 49ers, I think, have done themselves a really good job of putting themselves in a position right now to where they can be considered, yes, great roster. They've plugged a lot of holes. They've re-signed a lot of players that they needed back to prevent any, weak areas. And obviously they took care of the most important position, which is quarterback. So,
and we're going to find out real quick too, when we play Detroit and then Philadelphia, if this team is what we think they can be, they should take care of business pretty easily.
That's a good,
But you also can't predict how it's going to turn out either. I mean, in 18, you had George Kittle have the amazing season that he had, but everything else was falling around him. And then he lost twice to the Cardinals, who won nothing but beating the Niners that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could just tell though. You could see it by looking at a team and really like if they go out first 2 weeks and really take care of business. It's pretty safe assumption that at least the teams they're supposed to beat, they're going to beat. And you worry about the teams that are on par talent wise, but those games are always tough. Division games are always tough.
I mean, maybe it's different for you guys because you're in California, so you guys have like different coverage where you live. But as an East Coast person, and I listen all the time about the Giants and the football team and the Eagles and the Cowboys especially.
Yeah.
I just don't believe that the beginning of the year has to do with the end of the year. Because according to everybody...
I disagree.
According to everybody, though, that the Cowboys were supposed to be NFC Championship bound or less for the 19 season where they were just kicking the Giants' butt, and they were doing this, and they were doing that, and they were winning like the first few weeks, and then they barely ended up being 8-8. You just sometimes you just have the weak roster at the beginning.
Well, yeah, but if we're talking about the 49ers roster being potentially a top tier roster, and they go out and they take care of business, that just sets you on the path of being a top tier roster. Of course, there are teams that come out early and win some games or whatever. But in terms of saying like the early weeks don't matter, I mean, it counts towards your record. So it definitely matters. People lose spots in the national championship game in college because they lose the first 2 weeks or whatever. So it's definitely an indication of where the team could be. We saw coming off of the Super Bowl year, revenge tour, and they came out flat against the Cardinals. And there was something in the air that you're just like, oh, this does not look like the team that came out last year. They had a competitive game in week 1 in 2019, albeit because of a Jimmy pick 6 against the Buccaneers. And then they went out and shellacked the Cincinnati Bengals. And you're like, oh, okay, there's something here for this team. And those are the type of quick starts you want to get off to. If Kyle Shanahan's team getting off to a quick start is definitely a good thing in terms of where the team's going to end up. So, like I said, if they can come out and beat the teams they're supposed to beat, that's all you can hope for. And that'll be a good indication going forward of where they could potentially be if everything falls the right way. And this is all contingent upon it falling the right way, of course.
I'm just scared of like another Atlanta where it's that late game where you kind of have a penciled in absolute win and then just something goes hinky and then you lose a critical game at the end that puts all the pressure on week 17 or whatever it would be this year, week 18.
Yeah, but that's going to be less, I think, just because there's no. So that we were fighting for home field advantage, and that put us behind in terms of if we lost to Seattle, we'd lose the division, and we go from being a number one seed with a win to a wild card. Right? There's only one top seed this year, and only one bye week. So if you're not getting that first spot, the rest kind of doesn't matter that much. They've kind of taken some of the urgency out of the playoffs, in my opinion, with that only the top team gets a bye week thing.
It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out come the end of the season.
Yeah. Well, there's an extra wild card spot too, right? There's 3 wild cards.
Exactly. So it's all different. Last question for you, and then we're going to get into our game of yes or no, since you guys really seem to like it. We'll play it again. The 49ers reportedly were interested and met with, I believe, D.D. Westbrook, the wide receiver. Matt, what does their interest in him tell you about their, confidence in the wide receiver core currently? Is it just due diligence, or is there something more to it?
They're looking for roster spots to fill up training camp because they don't know what's what beyond the first 2 guys. So is Hurd going to be healthy, or is he going to be on the pup? Jawan Jennings, does he still have stone feet, or is he going to make some progress? Does Mohamed Sanu have anything left in the tank? Is Trent Sherfield a viable wide receiver prospect, or is he just going to be back there returning kicks? There's so many questions that if you can throw a guy who has a name like D.D. Westbrook, that's something that they wanted to look at. Now, they didn't sign him, and he went on to sign with the Vikings, but at least they're trying to look around and see what's there. There's still time. There are going to be people that get cut. For sure, there's going to be some names that get cut that they could potentially bring in. But for now, I just think they're kind of kicking the tires on anybody they can. There's no reason not to at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I liked the interest in him. Yeah, he did go on to sign with the Vikings, but I like that they're still willing to, look around and find that guy. The wide receiver 3 position is clearly something they're hoping somebody steps up for, and maybe they were thinking a guy like Westbrook could be signed off the street and come in here and compete at the very least, maybe get some punt returns, reps, or just, training camp body. Who knows?
Right.
Melissa, did you take anything out of their interest in him prior to him signing with Minnesota, obviously?
As long as it's not Jordan Matthews ever again, I'm happy.
Fair enough.
They've signed him like 14 times, man.
I was like, it's bad enough that we were so injury prone last year, but we kept re-signing him and bringing him back and then cutting him and then re-bringing him back. It's just like, please make up your mind or just leave him on the roster. It's like Kevin White last year. I never understood why they kept bringing him up and then he didn't get a single snap.
If that was
why
me,
give him that extra bonus for bringing him up if you're not going to even put him out there for one play?
Yeah. If I was dressing each week, right, every time I got cut and re-signed, I would pick a different number. So that way I had 14 different 49ers jerseys, each with a different number.
That's a good idea. That's hilarious.
He'd be a trivia answer. Who wore the most numbers in 49ers history? Jordan Matthews.
That's true. Yeah. All right.
Hey, can I ask you guys a question real quick about?
Of course.
You guys started off the show with Warner, and it made me think about his brother Troy.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of different ones this year, so I was wondering who was the bloodline that you wanted on this team the most, and had to see go somewhere else.
I mean, it was definitely Troy for me. I wanted the Niners to get him. He ended up with
the Rams.
I'm like, no, it's someone in the division. Yeah, the Rams.
Yeah.
Who else? Who else was in there that was still a bloodline?
Horn, Surtain. There's a couple different ones.
Okay. I see what you mean.
Of the bloodline players, man, I think I was a big JC Horn fan.
You were. I remember that. Yeah.
So I thought he was going to be really good, but am I crushed about it? No, because they went up and traded and got Trey Lance, so I'm not really upset about it at all.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I do remember that you were saying if they go corner, you would love JC Horn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, gosh, and another reality when the 49ers didn't trade up and get a quarterback, maybe they got a corner. But all right, time for yes or no.
Yes.
Matt, do you want to go first? I'm sorry, Melissa, we didn't prepare you. I don't know if you have any papers next to you to write yes or no on.
I could just give a thumbs up or thumbs down.
There
Perfect.
you go.
Make it simple.
She knows how to play the game.
Yeah.
She knows.
Improv, we love it.
Right?
Yep. All right, Matt, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You can go first. That's fine.
Okay. I've seen this, and I've seen it even in the comments in the chat today. Jimmy Garoppolo, not Ward, is the most overrated 49ers player in history. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So I guess we're just going to do this for ourselves because there's 3 of us and we can't really. So we all agree no, right?
Right.
Okay. Who do you have a name?
Oh, of course I do.
Who do you got?
No one's going to like it.
Shoot.
It's Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
It's Colin Kaepernick. So when Jimmy Garoppolo gets cut, nobody's going to talk about how he made that one Super Bowl that one time. 9 years later, we're still talking about how Colin Kaepernick made that one Super Bowl that one time and had that one really good game against Green Bay.
Paiwo Noor just stole my answer. I was going to say Crabtree.
Yeah. I mean, he had that 1,000 yard.
I just
for being drafted 10th.
The Seahawks and the Ravens game in the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship, and I couldn't ever escape seeing Crabtree everywhere. He was like the #1 selling thing on the shop, and I just wanted anything with Justin Smith, and I couldn't find him. So for me, Crabtree will always be that one guy that really irked me.
I guess I'm thinking of Crabtree. The expectations were really high, and then he had that holdout, if I remember correctly, to start his season, his rookie year. Yeah, man. I agree with you, Melissa. Crabtree definitely did not perform.
Biggest bust is probably AJ Jenkins still, but
I'm still.
Well, it's not buzzed. It was who's a player that was overrated, and for me, it was either Vernon Davis or Crabtree.
Yeah.
Vernon Davis was fine until Cam Chancellor loosened his soul from his body, and then he was never the same again.
He knocked the talent out of him.
He definitely did.
He really did. Yeah. Boy, the comments are really going on now.
I actually like Ian's. One important. He didn't win the Super Bowl though, dude.
He had some good moments, but he did not.
So did Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo had a couple 4-touchdown games.
Yeah.
But did they win the Super Bowl? They're both 0-1 in Super Bowls. So.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about this.
My thing is just real quick. My thing is just like, why I say Colin Kaepernick is because the fan base sits here and just like drips hatred on Jimmy, drips haterade on Jimmy. And yet out of the other side of their mouth, they're still talking about Colin Kaepernick as if he was like a Hall of Famer. And he wasn't. And I'm sorry, I just don't like the hypocrisy. You can't have it both ways. They were both mediocre quarterbacks that had one outstanding year that led to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yay, mini rant.
Okay.
Mini rant.
Mini Matt rant. my answer, gosh. I'm going to go with Torrey Smith because I don't think Torrey Smith did anywhere near what the 49ers. Well, I know what I personally expected when they signed him. He was supposed to be that deep threat, take the top off. Granted, nobody on the team was good around the Torrey Smith era when he was on the team, but he's still way under. I think I can think of one long touchdown, and that was that walk-off against Chicago in overtime, if I remember correctly. But other than that, there wasn't much from Torrey Smith. Okay, Matt.
Like Torrey Smith was like Randy Moss, where he just kind of crashed in on he needed receiver help and didn't really do much.
But
I will say though, Randy Moss was getting old when he signed here, though.
Yeah. Torrey Smith was in the prime. I think that was like his second contract, if I remember correctly. He had just left Baltimore.
Right to the Eagles, and he came back. That kind of really also ticked me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Matt, do you have a question?
Cap regressed in his last year with Harbaugh, too. He had that one. His second year was his best year, and he steadily declined after that. As the league took away his running lanes and his ability to break out like he did against Green Bay. He was forced to throw the ball more, and we all saw the first half against Arizona where he was that four picks that first half. So Solomon Thomas, I think, is a bust, not overrated.
Yeah. Jay Ellie says he can't blame Torres. I don't necessarily blame him. I'm just saying when we signed him, I don't know if can free agents be busts, because that's kind of what that whole situation was. He was a bust.
Yeah, I mean,
talent
you can
was
bust
there.
on a free agent. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's more of a bust. But my mind.
Yeah, I think for me, overrated means somebody that the fan base holds in higher regard than they should.
Fair enough. All right, Matt, shoot.
Okay. Let's see. Where was I going to go? See, I got so sidetracked. Go again, Zach. I forgot.
Go again. Okay.
Go again.
Melissa, do you have any?
Okay. Most.
I can go. I can go if you want.
Brandon Iuke, and Deebo Samuel. Will they be the best duo on the team this year?
Best duo on the team.
Yes. For a position group.
Ooh, per position group. Okay.
All right. You guys ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. All right. We're all in agreement again.
Yeah.
Matt, why not?
Dude, I don't. If you want to say duo, I guess I'll throw. It's hard to pick the second guy, but whoever is slotted next to Nick Bosa is going to eat this year. They're going to smash quarterbacks this year.
Yep. I like that. You know, it's funny. My mind went to Trent Williams and Laken Tomlinson. I mean, it's tough, but like you said, just similar to Nick Bosa, Trent Williams.
I think you can do Trent Williams and Alex Mack. They're both on the offensive line. That's a position group.
That is it. Yeah, that is true. Melissa, why not?
I'm maybe biased because of the Harbaugh days, but for me, it's going to be the linebackers. It's going to be Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. I love Bowman. I love Willis, and I love Greenlaw, and I love Fred. So,
all right,
that's a good one too.
Plus, I cannot stop watching that Dre Greenlaw hit in the Rams game. I think it was week 6 last year, where he just nailed the guy going right out of bounds. There's so many underrated Greenlaw plays.
Yep. Thank you, CG Ruthless Sports. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. All right. Is it my turn?
No, I got it. Okay.
You got it?
Yeah. Trey Lance will start more games this season than Jimmy Garoppolo.
I love it. Okay. 3, 2, 1. We're all in agreement so far. 3 for 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Melissa,
okay.
Why don't you start us off?
Maybe it's because I just want it, or maybe I just think that it's about time. But I think that Trey's just going to end up getting more time. I just don't see it being Jimmy's year.
Okay.
Fair enough, Zach.
Yeah, I think Trey just beats out Jimmy, and I think eventually we're just going to see him more because he's going to win the starting gig.
Yeah, I agree. I think the more that the 49ers team as a team all together, all on the field, OTAs are one thing, right? You're in shorts and shells. You're not really doing anything. Everything's half speed. You're walking through basically just drilling. I think when they start running like full contact 7-on-7s and like really getting out there and learning the playbook, the more that they see Trey Lance, who's just bigger than Jimmy, more physically talented than Jimmy, the more they see him out there, the more they're going to be kind of chomping at the bit to get him in there. And I think that Kyle Shanahan's going to be the same way. But
I think it's also their attitudes. I mean, how they prepare in the offseason. Jimmy had to be kind of like arm bent last year by Kittle to come out to Nashville to practice with all of them.
Yeah, and that's part of it, for sure.
He doesn't really try to make any kind of bond with the team. And then you have Trey Lance, who's trying to work out with everybody on the offense, from River Craycraft all the way to the top guys. It's just, you get a different feeling with the new quarterback.
Yeah, and I think that's that's kind of a mixed thing, right? Like, Jimmy might just be a different type of leader because there's no doubt that the players like Jimmy a lot. He's well liked in that locker room. It's a new look from Trey Lance, and I think that does make a difference. But when you get them out there and can compare them side by side, apples to apples, I think that's where you're going to see the players start to shift away from Jimmy and going to Trey Lance because they realize that Trey Lance is going to be the future. And if in the NFL, your career is short, so the future is now, And
I also think it's the Sherman thing where a lot of contracts are based on your numbers and the things that you get done in your contract per game. And there's been a boiling frustration with Jimmy since he went and got himself hurt against KC. And I think if certain players like Iuke and Kittle are not being seen on the field, that's going to boil over, and then they're going to call for his job.
Oh, for sure. So. For sure. The players know. The players will know real quick.
Mm-hmm. Hit that like button if you guys haven't already. All right, is it my turn? By the way, this was really interesting comment by George gone quiet on Jimmy.
Well, like I said earlier in the show, George came out and was like, I hope Trey comes for Jimmy's job. Competition is good for everybody.
Yep. Something to read in there.
Yeah.
Okay, mine's similar to your question, Matt, and that's Trey Sermon will finish the year with more carries than Raheem Mostert. 3, 2, 1. First disagreement. Okay, Matt.
Hey, buddy, come on.
I'm out on Mostert, dude. I have not been a fan of Mostert since he held the team up for money. That to me it bugged me. And then he went out and got hurt immediately afterwards. So I don't know. This is a prove it year for Raheem Mostert. To me, you're a guy that bounced around the league, had a really good playoff run, but you've never had 1,000-yard rushing season. You got hurt when you held the team up for money. Trey Sermon's a 3rd-round guy, big school, big time in the college playoffs. I just think I'm more excited about Trey Sermon right now.
Okay. Melissa, you said yes as well?
I know he's speedy, but we've cut 2 speedy guys already with Breida and Goodwin. I don't bet on the speedy guy anymore. I mean, most of 19, when everyone's talking about Mostert, the bell cows were Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida into the playoffs. And 20, when he was supposed to be the bell cow, he went and disappeared for his wife's when his child was born, and then he just kind of disappeared for the rest of the year. Whether that was injury or that was still the money game. It's just, and you guys got Gallman, and you got Mitchell, and you got Sermon, and you got Juice, and you have all these other options. I just don't see Raheem Mostert being that guy.
Yep.
Okay. I went with yes, but you guys are definitely making me reconsider. But I do think.
Well, here's the thing. If they thought that Mostert was by far the guy, then why'd they bring in so many other running backs?
I took that in consideration, but I thought after this year, most definitely, maybe this is his last hurrah. Maybe they're just trying to milk as much as they can out of this before they move on. But yeah, you guys make great points. Also, Cully asked if we're going to the Colts game. Not as of now, but Matt, I believe, is only going to week 17 in LA. 18
in LA.
Yeah, 18. I actually haven't gotten any tickets yet, so I need to grab some. I will definitely announce it when I.
The 2022 season is going to be the big season for me, coming out to a lot of games.
All right. I love it. All right. Melissa, I think it's your turn. If you have another question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Diamador, Lenore, or Eliza Mitchell, who do you see either one of them making a big impact this year? That's the second picked for that position.
Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. All in agreement. Okay.
Yep.
Matt, who and which one? Or yes, I guess
Lenore.
why and which one?
Lenore.
Okay.
Yeah, I still have question marks about whether Verrett and K'Wan Williams can stay healthy, and if they can't, then Lenore's going to have to step up and play. And I think that the reason why they went 2 corners and a safety in the draft is because they know that the secondary is a question mark in terms of injuries and in terms of longevity and keeping that position going. So they're going to want to get them out on the field to see what they have and see if there's something they can move forward with in the future. So I think Lenore is going to get plenty of playing time. We saw a lot of corners play for the 49ers last year.
Some really poor ones too. With that said,
He who shall not be named.
He who shall not be named. Exactly. I just think they're thin in the secondary. And, it's a young draft pick. Let's see what he's got. Yep. And I think got – go ahead.
Well, and to be fair, I think that Ambry Thomas is a guy. Like I said before, he's a Michigan guy. I love Michigan football. I think that he's going to be like the actual standout. But in terms of the second guy picked in each individual position group, I do think that Lenore's going to give more than, like a Mitchell would or the guy who I can't remember, the second offensive lineman who I always forget.
Jalen Moore, I think.
Yeah, Jalen Moore. Yeah. So, I think that actually Elijah Mitchell is strictly here to be like a special teams guy.
I think just numbers wise, depth wise, statistically speaking, Lenore has a higher chance of producing and contributing more than Mitchell, who's basically buried on the depth chart as of now. Great question. Melissa, you said yes as well. Same reasons?
I think Mitchell might for special teams, or he might just do it to keep guys fresh, because I don't think Kyle wants a Derrick Henry where he runs somebody down and then they're injured, or a Nick Chubb where they get too many carries and then they kind of get burnt out, which I actually like better as a running back group than one guy. And for me, Yamado or Lenore, I think can easily come in to keep the cornerbacks healthy, which has not been easy for them. And I would also like him to be trained up to take over for Shark.
Yeah, aging secondary, so these guys are definitely going to get a lot of playing time. I'm definitely interested to see what they got in Lenore. I don't know that much about him. Outside of he has a pretty much a mouthful name, so.
Yeah. Seriously. Matt, I think it's your turn. Do you want to take us home here with the last one?
Yes, I will take us home. The 49ers will have a special teams return for a touchdown this season.
Great question. All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Our special teams suck, man. I think offense and defense are going to be top 10. I think that we're going to be like 19th in special teams, and it's going to be ugly.
All right. I think they turn it around. I don't think they're going to be top 10 in the league, but one touchdown, I think they're capable of one special teams touchdown. What do you think, Melissa?
I haven't really seen a big, flashy, like you remember it off the top of your head, touchdown since Richie James against the Seahawks where they finally beat Russell Wilson. I just don't see that changing in one summer. I would love it. I would love more than one, but I can't see it.
Yep. Agree.
All right. Well, I'm going to stay optimistic. We're going to take a couple of questions and then wrap things up here. I saw.
Okay, but what would you rather have? Would you rather have the one touchdown, or would you rather never have to deal with the nightmare from last year where they kept turning the ball over because they kept fumbling the kickoffs?
Yeah, I definitely
see. For me, I'd rather hold on to the ball than have to pick the touchdown.
You can't even talk to me about fumbles. I'm still so PTSD'd from Kyle Williams, dude. Like I can't even.
But it wasn't Kyle Williams last year. It was so
no, I know,
bad.
but I mean from the 2011 NFC Championship game where he fumbled the 2 punt returns in a row. Like,
I was flinching so bad last year. Like, there would be 5-hour watches on Nothing But Niners live during the game, and every time it was kickoff, I would be flinching, and I was like, "Please don't turn over the ball! Please don't turn over the ball!"
Dude, I remember when we went and watched the Pittsburgh game at the stadium with the Nothing But Niners guys. And the absolute meltdowns that happened during that game with all the turnovers, it was like, oh my God. I love those guys. It was meltdown city, though.
It was interesting to see happen in real time.
I just kept getting drunker and drunker. I was like, I'm just going to keep drinking, dude. Like, I can't even.
It was fun. It was fun.
It was a great game.
I can't find the comment. I believe it was Collie that asked, and we've talked about this. Wide receiver 3. Who do you guys think it will be?
To begin the year, I think it's Snu. I don't know if it ends up being that for the rest of the year.
It's all going to depend. I think we're going to have a clearer picture depending on, like, you know, after this first week of practice in training camp. Where is Jalen Hurd? Is he participating in like wide receiver drills, or is he off on the practice field with the trainers? You know, how does Juwan Jennings look in the drills? Does he, again, is he more fleet-footed, or does he look real slow? You know, it's really just going to depend. But I think off the top of my head, I think I agree with Melissa, where if Sanu comes in shape and has anything left in the tank, then I mean, he's kind of should be the front runner, probably with Richie James for the 3rd spot.
Okay.
And it's also the quarterback situation. I mean, you would want to go with the vet over the young guys because you don't know how they're going to handle Garoppolo or whatever else happens at the beginning of the year.
Whoever the best talent is, like, really, you know, vet, rookie, whatever. Like, all I want is the best wide receiver 3 that the team can get.
Yep. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's Jalen Hurd. I don't know.
You know, we're going to replace that D with a T if he gets hurt again, right? He's going to be Jalen Hurd, bro.
But I'm reading the reports, you know, back in May when Shanahan was asked about him, he said it's great to have him back. He came back when phase 2 started. He's done a good job in his ACL rehab. He should be ready to go back to camp. Hopefully there aren't any setbacks and stuff like that. Right now he's just working out with our head athletic trainer, Dustin, on the side, making sure he continues to rehab, get ready for this time, which would be training camp.
And this is all academic because Steve says in the comments, and I agree with him, there's going to be no set wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
Outside of Debo and Iuke, everything else is going to be so fluid, and they're going to move Debo all over the place. So it's just going to depend on down distance situation. So I agree with that.
Yeah. Let's see. There's a comment here. Rob Schmidt, week 1 score predictions.
Dang.
That's tough. It's a ways out.
If I'm looking at paper, like if I'm looking on paper, 49ers are going to win like 37-10.
Dude, I had 31-10. That's literally what. Yeah, I think
it's going to be blowout city, dude. It's going to be like a 3-touchdown game. The Lions suck. Dude.
They're going to be biting ankles in the dog piles, or biting knees, whatever their head coach said. Melissa, what do you got? Week score prediction, week 1.
34-6.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
I mean, Jared Goff's going to be way more worried about his girlfriend coming to Detroit and actually living with him still, more than he's going to worry about football.
But Kenny Galladay is gone. I don't see much on their offense or their defense.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Darius Leonard's not there anymore.
The only thing the Lions are...
I would root for the Lions just to spite my brother because he's such an annoying Packer fan. And it's not just because we're facing them week 1. I just don't see the Lions being a threat.
You can't put the ball on the tee for him to hit a home run with. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. The Detroit is so bad. The only thing good coming out of Detroit is those cringy interviews from their head coach.
yeah. It's weird.
That's it.
Oh my God.
Penor, is it crazy to think that Lance and Mahomes have a chance to win just as many Super Bowls as Brady, or more, given the fact their teams are set to collect already?
Combined, not as crazy. Individually, absolutely. Tom Brady's been to 10 Super Bowls, dude. 10 and he's won 7.
Yeah, that's insane.
I don't know that that's ever going to happen again. Previous to him, the max was 4 for a quarterback.
Yeah.
So this is just far and above. Like, Brady's a unicorn. He's the GOAT. There's no question.
I just don't see a team ever getting the breaks that the Patriots got, though.
That as well. Yeah.
With the tuck rule and this rule and then the Deflategate and
but I'm not gonna diminish Brady's
I'm not saying that he hasn't won.
Happen,
I'm not saying that they didn't have great players. I'm just everything though. Are you ever gonna see the rest bail out with the tuck rule coming out of the random book again? Are you gonna?
I mean, we kind of saw
a team kind of decimate their team by only keeping their quarterback. I mean, the Packers have tried to do that, keep Aaron Rodgers and kind of cut everybody else, and that hasn't really worked out for them. So,
which should go to Brady's favor.
I just think the unicorn thing, you're never going to recapture that. I mean, they were penciled in every year they were going to win their division.
Well, and the
I
thing
don't
is,
see
he
that
went 10
happening
years
either.
between Super Bowl wins too. So like
I mean,
he
they made
won.
the biggest deal out of last year being the first time he's ever been 2 losses to a divisional opponent during the year. That never happened in his entire career. I mean, those kind of things you never going to see.
He had the benefit of a weak division, but part of being successful is being lucky. Patriots just got lucky.
Yeah.
Flat out.
Well, and you know, things happen too, you know, like what happens in the Super Bowl against the Patriots if the Rams get called for that pass interference that was clearly a pass interference. You know what I mean? Like there's 100 different things that can happen. You know, what if the 49ers had gotten that call holding in the end zone, right? Like there's always botched calls and blown this and blown that. The fact of the matter is teams won 7 Super Bowls and nobody can take that away. So
yep. It's the human element because they always, you know, offense, defense, special teams, but there's actually referee, you know, you take that into consideration as well. It's not a perfectly objective robot calling these fouls. It's a person, it's a human, and it's all objective, and that's something you got to consider as well.
Yeah, and I will push back. By the way, I do want to push back. I know the weak division thing, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, he made it through his conference's playoffs 10 times to get to the Super Bowl. So yeah, you could say it's like the same thing with, and you know, I'm not necessarily like a gigantic LeBron James fan or whatever. They're like the East is weak. Yeah, but he's still making finals every single year. Once you get to the playoffs, you're playing other good teams. So it's a little of this, a little of that, you know. And the AFC wasn't always weak. They had Peyton Manning that competed with him, you know, each and every year. They had top flight defenses that would compete with him, you know. So, you know, the Steelers are there. I don't know. I think it's too easy to write off greatness, and I think everybody should just enjoy the ride.
Yep. All right. Preseason week 1 prediction. It's
I predict we see 0 Jimmy Garoppolo and like 2 series of Trey Lance, and then we get Josh Rosen for the rest of the game.
You think Josh Rosen balls out?
Josh Rosen or Nate Sudsville or whatever.
Sudsville.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those two are vying for 3rd place.
Yep. I think Rosen pulls ahead. Yeah, hopefully we get some rookies, get a nice look. It's at least a small look in week 1 and get a glimpse of what we're.
I think outside of quarterback, we'll see a lot of the rookies. I just don't think at quarterback they're going to put anything. But see, even that, you know, now that I think about it, even that's hard to predict because there's only 3 preseason games this year.
Yep.
So
it's tough. Melissa, you got any predictions for the first preseason game?
I get to see Niners football again, hopefully. So that's my prediction.
All right.
Because we don't always get it in New Jersey.
That's right. Yeah. I bet not. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it. Thank you very much for tuning in. Melissa, thank you for coming on. It was a blast having you on.
Absolutely. Long time coming.
I wore the glasses just for you.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody. If you're watching, hit the like button on our YouTube channel. Subscribe as well. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers so we can give away a 49ers jersey. And if you're watching on Twitter, hit that follow button because we're trying to get to 10,000 followers on Twitter to give away another 49ers jersey. So go ahead and support channel. Like I said, links in the bio for Acre Gold, shop49ershive.com. Get your new Warner Bread merch and 81 Vino. Go check out our sponsors.
Yep. Go ahead and get us
Google
to
accounts. I follow you guys on all 5. So
all 5.
Yes.
Hey,
that's awesome.
Be like Melissa. Do your part. Get us to 10,000 on Twitter, 2,000 on YouTube. We're trying to give you guys some jerseys. You guys don't want any jerseys or what?
It's not just because you guys always ask for more subscriptions. It has another feature. I used to play this game called Marvel Contest of Champions on my phone.
Yeah.
And you would have to save it on a Google account to have a backup because sometimes your phone freezes.
Yeah.
So I would have to create more Google accounts. And I was like, you know what? I have this. Google works with YouTube. Might as well just give you guys more subscriptions. It's you guys, nitty gritty, nothing but Niners, a whole bunch of different ones that I follow on all 5.
Couldn't have said it any better,
Yep.
ourselves. So thank you as always for joining us, guys. We love having you here. Thanks you
And
to
thank
Melissa
you to
for joining
East Bay
us.
Chris, who doesn't really watch these shows, but I appreciate him
Yeah,
coming on.
I know. I saw him in the chat. That's great. So
Yeah.
Chris is a good
and
guy.
next time it could be one of you guys. So with that being said, until next time, everyone, go Niners.
Bye, everybody.